Hello! Welcome back to my channel. I'm Ariane and this is Ariane's Cake House. I've been recording just my hand for a while because I've been recovering from a really bad wisdom tooth extraction, but the swelling has gone down, so I'm back. Okay, so let's get started. So as always, I take off the caramelization from each layer just to make it a little bit more level, and it just looks nicer when you cut into it. So for my top tip for applying buttercream in between layers is just to use the same instrument. So for example, I use a tablespoon, so if I'm doing a 6-inch cake I usually use 2 or 3 tablespoons of buttercream, and that makes sure that the buttercream in between each layer is the same or as close to the same as it can be. I also make sure that I look at my cake from eye level. I literally bend down and look at it because it's just the best angle to see if your cake is actually straight before you finish decorating it and crumb coating it. So after you finish your crumb coat, pop it in the fridge, and when you're done you can apply this layer that I'm applying now. So I use the acrylic disc method. I just find it easier. So I usually use a 0.5 acrylic disc. What that means is if I use a 6-inch cake, it's 6.5. But this time I used a 0.25 just because I know that I was applying a layer of colour. So you don't want to use the bigger disc because once you add colour there's just going to be lots of buttercream, and I wanted to avoid that. So I went for the 0.25, even though I really hate working with it because it makes things a little bit trickier. As always, use a level because who doesn't want to be a little bit extra? Again, always bend down to have a look at the cake and use your level, but when you use your spirit level, use it across the top, so don't just put it in one place, keep moving it to make sure that it's actually level all the way around. So here I am smoothing out the cake, but again, because I know that I'm applying a layer of colour, it doesn't have to be like a perfect finish, just get it as straight as you can. So here is my first bit of colour, and it's like a really deep purple. I wish you could see how nice the purple is. I don't even feel like you can see it here because it looks quite dark, but it's a nice purple. So what you want to do for the colour layer is actually apply like as thin a layer as you can. I don't usually like working with darker colours because they can taste kind of weird, but this one actually tasted completely fine. It just tasted vanilla-y, and I think that's because I didn't use like an actual purple. I mixed colours and had like a custom purple, and that made like a massive difference, so yay. So what's happening here is the colour's coming away because the cake was too cold, so that is another tip. So once you take your cake out of the fridge or the freezer, like let it come to not room temperature, but let it warm up a tiny little bit before you start applying room temperature buttercream, because what happens is the cake is cold and your buttercream is warm and it will just want to sweat a little bit. I always use a sharp knife on the top of my cakes, it just makes it look a little bit neater. I actually had no idea what I was planning to do with this cake as I was doing it. All I had in my mind was a colour scheme and knowing that it had to be dramatic. So I went with this. I don't even know where this stencil is from, sorry, I wish I did. Don't even know where stencil's from, but because it was like a peacocky cake, this looked feathery to me, so I went with it. I don't have any tips for a stencil, I clearly wing it, so just make sure your cake is cold, that is all. I feel like this gold splashing thing is soon becoming my signature. You can use any gold luster dust, but just use vodka, which evaporates so there is no alcohol on the cake once it's dry, or you can use lemon juice. So here are the feathers. I got them from Amazon, and I just cut them and trimmed them and took some of the hairs off them and applied it with buttercream so that it stuck to the cake. There were a few more colours in the colour scheme to add, so I decided to add it using texture. So what I do is I kind of just get a very small palette knife. I think this is actually like an art tool, and just put buttercream on the cake and then just tap it. Again, your cake needs to be cold for this. If your cake's not cold, then the purple would have come off on the blue, so the cake does actually need to be cold. Okay, so I have my own Cricut machine, so I make my cake toppers myself. I wanted to go with a kind of simple-ish topper because the cake was so dramatic already. Okay, so I decided to finish the cake off with some more peacock feathers because apparently there is no such thing as too much peacock feathers. I faffed around a lot with the placement of these feathers. I don't even know why. As you can see, I keep going backwards and forwards and trying to figure out where I want them. Again, like I said, I didn't really have a specific design in mind, but I knew that I wanted to be kind of tall and elegant. So yeah, I decided to arrange it in kind of like a fan shape, I guess. Yeah, I faffed around like this for a little